Tonight, somewhere on Earth, rain is falling softly against a bedroom window. A child is asleep beneath warm blankets while a television glows quietly in another room. In some city apartment, a tired office worker is brushing their teeth before bed. Far away, fishermen are preparing their boats under cold harbor lights. Planes are crossing dark oceans carrying strangers who will never meet again. And beneath all of it, the planet continues its slow journey through space. The Earth feels permanent when you are standing on it. Mountains look eternal, oceans feel endless, cities appear indestructible under their blankets of light. Humanity has built roads through deserts, tunnels beneath rivers, towers above clouds. We have split atoms, mapped the human brain, walked on the moon, and filled invisible air with billions of voices traveling through satellites overhead. It is easy to believe civilization is the final stage of history. But the universe does not recognize permanence. The universe only recognizes time. And time eventually takes everything. Long before humans existed, the Earth belonged to creatures so strange they would feel unreal now. Forests taller than skyscrapers once covered continents. Giant insects drifted through humid prehistoric air. Oceans boiled with life forms that vanished millions of years before the first human ever looked at the stars. Entire worlds existed here before us. Entire worlds disappeared. Most species that have ever lived are extinct now. The Earth itself has survived unimaginable catastrophes. Asteroids, ice ages, supervolcanoes, continents tearing apart and colliding again, oceans rising, oceans dying, atmospheres changing, skies darkening for centuries. And through all of it, life continued. But survival is not guaranteed forever. Because the story of Earth does not end with humanity. It does not even end with life. One day the oceans will vanish. One day forests will disappear. One day the atmosphere itself will begin to die. And far beyond that distant horizon waits the final silence of a dead planet orbiting a dying star. Not tomorrow, not next year, but someday. And tonight, while millions sleep peacefully beneath electric light, the countdown has already begun. The strange thing is that the ending will not arrive all at once. There will be no dramatic moment where the sky suddenly cracks open and the world instantly disappears. The end of Earth is not a single disaster. It is a process. Slow, patient, unstoppable. Like winter approaching across a field. Human beings struggle to understand very large numbers. We measure our lives in birthdays and seasons. A long time feels like 50 years. Ancient history feels impossibly distant at 2,000 years. But the Earth measures time differently. Dinosaurs ruled this planet for around 165 million years. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. If Earth's entire history were compressed into a single calendar year, human civilization would appear only in the final seconds before midnight on December 31st. Everything humanity has ever built exists within a blink. And someday, even that blink will fade. Right now, deep beneath your feet, radioactive atoms inside Earth's core are slowly decaying. That invisible heat keeps parts of the planet alive. It drives volcanoes. It moves continents. It creates magnetic fields that shield us from deadly radiation pouring from space. But the core is cooling. Very slowly. Almost imperceptibly. Every year, Earth loses a little more of its ancient internal heat, left over from the violent birth of the solar system billions of years ago. The planet you stand on is not frozen solid only because it is still dying from its creation. The sun is changing too. Every second, our star converts around 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium through nuclear fusion. An unimaginable amount of energy explodes outward continuously, flooding the solar system with light and heat. That process keeps Earth alive, but it also seals Earth's fate, because the sun grows slightly brighter over time. Not enough for humans to notice over generations, not enough to change tomorrow's weather forecast, but over millions and billions of years, the increase becomes catastrophic. The future death of Earth is already written inside the physics of the sun itself. And nothing humanity can build will stop stellar evolution. Tonight, cities shine brightly across continents. Seen from orbit, humanity resembles glowing veins spread across the darkness of Earth. Highways pulse with motion. Cargo ships move through black oceans carrying food, fuel, machines, medicine. Civilization feels massive, but it is astonishingly fragile. Modern society depends on systems most people never think about. Electricity arrives instantly when a switch is touched. Clean water flows from pipes hidden inside walls. Satellites silently guide airplanes and cargo across the planet. Farms produce enough food for billions because temperatures, rainfall, and growing seasons remain stable enough for agriculture. Human civilization was built during one of the calmest climate periods in Earth's history. A brief moment of planetary stability. But stability never lasts forever. The Earth has no obligation to remain comfortable for us. Far beneath Yellowstone National Park in the United States lies a supervolcano large enough to darken skis across continents. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, tectonic plates grind together with enough pressure to create earthquakes that can erase entire coastlines in minutes. Above us, asteroids still drift silently through space. Most will never come near Earth. Some eventually will. The universe is not hostile. It is simply indifferent. And indifference can be terrifying. For most of human history, people imagine the end of the world through mythology, fire raining from the heavens, angry gods, monsters emerging from darkness, eternal floods. Now science paints a stranger picture. The real ending is quieter, colder in some ages, hotter in others, longer than any human mind can truly imagine. One day, the continents themselves will move into entirely new shapes. Africa will collide with Europe. Oceans will open and close. Mountain ranges taller than the Himalayas may rise and vanish again. Eventually, the moon will drift farther from Earth. Days will become longer. The rotation of the planet will continue slowing almost invisibly, century after century. The night sky future humans see will not resemble ours, assuming humans still exist at all. That question lingers over every future timeline. Will humanity survive long enough to witness Earth's decline? Or will we disappear long before the planet itself begins dying? No one knows. Civilizations throughout history believed themselves permanent too. Ancient cities, once filled with voices, now lie buried beneath sand and jungle. Empires that controlled continents collapsed into ruins visited only by tourists and archaeologists. Human memory is short. The universe is not. Imagine standing alone on a beach 1 billion years from now. The oceans are smaller. The sun looks brighter and whiter overhead. The air feels heavier. Many forms of life are already gone. Plants struggle beneath rising heat. Complex ecosystems collapse slowly across centuries. Evolution fights desperately to adapt, but the planet is changing faster and faster. The Earth is still beautiful then, but it is no longer the Earth humanity once knew. And beyond that distant future waits something even worse. Because eventually, the oceans themselves will begin to disappear into the sky. Not through war, not through pollution, but because increasing solar heat will slowly push Earth toward a runaway greenhouse effect. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas. More heat means more evaporation. More evaporation traps more heat. More heat causes even more evaporation. A chain reaction. The seas that created life on Earth will eventually help destroy it. And the tragedy is that Earth has already seen a version of this nightmare before. Right next door, another planet circles the sun beneath thick clouds of acid. Venus, a world that may once have possessed oceans. A world transformed into a furnace hot enough to melt lead. Sometimes, when scientists study the future of Earth, they look toward Venus like doctors studying a terminal illness. Because planets can die, not explode dramatically, not vanish instantly, but slowly become unrecognizable. Tonight, most people are thinking about ordinary things. Rent payments, school tomorrow morning, dinner plans, text messages, a movie they forgot to finish. Somewhere, someone is falling in love for the first time. Somewhere else, someone is saying goodbye forever. Human life continues beautifully and painfully beneath stars that will outlive everyone alive today. And far above those sleeping cities, the universe continues its silent expansion into endless darkness. Galaxies drift farther apart. Stars are born. Stars die. Black holes consume light itself. The cosmos is unimaginably violent and impossibly calm at the same time. Earth survives only because of a delicate balance of circumstances, so precise it almost feels accidental. A slightly different orbit, a slightly smaller moon, a weaker magnetic field, a different atmosphere. Any of these changes might have prevented humanity from existing at all. Yet here we are, tiny conscious creatures standing briefly on the surface of a cooling rock, orbiting a middle-aged star, trying to understand how the story ends. And perhaps the strangest part is this: the atoms inside your body were created in ancient exploding stars long before Earth existed. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, all forged inside stellar furnaces billions of years ago. Human beings are not separate from the universe. We are part of it. Temporary arrangements of ancient matter capable of wondering about its own fate. One day, every person alive now will be gone. One day, every building will crumble. One day, every language spoken today will disappear. And one day, Earth itself will become silent. But tonight, life still exists here. The oceans still move beneath the moon. Wind still passes through forests. Cities still glow in darkness. Somewhere, a dog is sleeping beside its owner. Somewhere, someone is watching snowfall quietly from a window. Somewhere, a newborn child is taking their first breath on a planet that still feels eternal. And the Earth continues turning beneath the stars. For now, the first signs the planet was dying. The end of Earth will not begin with panic. There will be no global alarm echoing across cities. No sudden message appearing in every language warning humanity that the countdown has started. At first, the changes will feel small. So small that entire generations may barely notice them. A few degrees warmer, longer droughts, stronger storms, oceans creeping slightly farther inland each year. Human beings are remarkably skilled at adapting to slow disasters, especially when those disasters arrive gradually enough to feel normal. A child born during rising temperatures accepts heat as ordinary. A generation raised beside shrinking coastlines learns new maps without mourning the old ones. Civilization adjusts itself little by little, often without realizing how much has already been lost. The future rarely announces itself clearly. It arrives quietly, like dust gathering in an abandoned room. Even now, Earth is changing faster than most people understand. Glaciers that survived thousands of years are retreating. Coral reefs visible from space are bleaching white beneath warming oceans. Entire species vanish before scientists even discover they existed. The sixth mass extinction may already be underway. Not because Earth hates life, but because change is built into the nature of planets. And life survives only when it can change fast enough. For billions of years, Earth has balanced on invisible systems delicate enough to collapse if pushed too far. The atmosphere traps just enough heat. Oceans circulate warmth around continents. Plants absorb carbon dioxide while releasing oxygen. Ice reflects sunlight back into space. Each system supports the others, like gears inside a vast machine. But machines can fail, especially when conditions change faster than stability can recover. The frightening part is not that Earth will eventually die. Scientists have known that for decades. The frightening part is how fragile habitability truly is. Imagine Earth viewed from deep space. A pale blue sphere wrapped in thin clouds. From far enough away, the atmosphere resembles an almost invisible skin surrounding the planet. All human history exists beneath that fragile layer of gas. Every war, every love story, every song ever written, every civilization, protected by an atmosphere thinner, relative to Earth's size, than the skin of an apple. Without it, life dies quickly. Mars once had rivers. Scientists now believe ancient Mars possessed lakes, rainfall, perhaps even oceans. But over time, the red planet lost much of its atmosphere. Solar radiation stripped it away piece by piece. Water vanished. Temperatures collapsed. What remains today is a cold desert beneath a silent sky. Planets can become graveyards. Earth avoids that fate partly because of something invisible beneath our feet. The magnetic field. Generated by molten metal moving inside the core, Earth's magnetic field extends far into space like a protective shield. It deflects charged particles from the sun that would otherwise slowly erode the atmosphere. Without that shield, the solar wind would gradually strip Earth bare. And even now, the magnetic field is changing. It wanders, weakens in some regions, strengthens in others. Throughout Earth's history, magnetic poles have even reversed completely. North becomes south. South becomes north. The process takes centuries and likely would not destroy civilization directly, but it reveals something unsettling. Even the invisible forces protecting life are unstable over long enough timelines. Far in the future, Earth's core will cool too much to sustain this magnetic shield forever. And when that happens, the atmosphere itself becomes vulnerable. But that is still unimaginably distant. Long before then, the sun will begin transforming the planet in slower, crueler ways. The sun is currently around halfway through its lifespan. It feels eternal because human lives are short, but stars age just like living things. Over time, the balance of fusion inside the sun changes. As hydrogen converts into helium, the sun gradually becomes hotter and brighter. 1 billion years from now, solar brightness may increase enough to trigger catastrophic climate instability on Earth. Not a sudden inferno, a slow escalation. Average temperatures continue climbing. Oceans evaporate faster. Weather patterns become increasingly violent. Rainforests collapse into dry plains. Many animals disappear because ecosystems can no longer support them. The future extinction of life on Earth may happen gradually enough that no single generation realizes they are witnessing the beginning of the end. Imagine future coastlines. The outlines of continents look unfamiliar now. Some modern cities lie underwater. Others have become abandoned ruins swallowed by desert or jungle. Sea levels rose slowly for centuries as polar ice vanished. At first, humanity fought to preserve coastlines. Walls were built, Flood barriers expanded. Artificial islands emerged offshore. The richest nations adapted longer than poorer ones. But eventually, retreat became unavoidable. Entire populations migrated inland over generations. Ancient waterfront cities became myths children learned about in school. Places where millions once lived beneath glowing skyscrapers eventually sank beneath dark water filled with fish, moving silently through empty streets. The Earth did not care. Planets do not mourn civilizations. And yet humanity continued surviving. That may be the most extraordinary part of our species. People adapt, even during collapse, even during chaos, even when the future becomes frighteningly uncertain. Human beings still fall in love during disasters, still tell stories, still cook meals, still laugh, still hope tomorrow might somehow improve. Civilization bends long before it breaks. But biology has limits. And eventually, Earth's future climate crosses thresholds no technology can easily solve. As temperatures rise over geological time, carbon dioxide levels begin falling due to long-term chemical reactions between rainfall, rocks, and the atmosphere. That sounds beneficial at first. But plants require carbon dioxide to survive. Too little and forests begin dying. Photosynthesis weakens. Large ecosystems collapse. The air still contains oxygen for a while, but Earth is slowly losing the biological systems that created breathable conditions in the first place. The world becomes quieter. Fewer insects, fewer birds, less green. Imagine standing in a future forest where the trees are thin and sparse beneath a harsh white sun. The air feels hotter than any modern summer. Rivers run lower each year. The silence becomes noticeable first. No distant calls of animals. No buzzing insects. Only wind moving through dying branches. This is how planetary death truly happens. Not with explosions. With absence. The absence of life. The absence of sound. The absence of movement. And through it all, the sun continues shining beautifully overhead, indifferent to what it is doing. There is something haunting about that. The same star that allowed life to exist will eventually erase it. Every sunrise in human history has come from a force that is slowly making Earth uninhabitable. Yet without that force, none of us would ever have existed. Creation and destruction emerge from the same source. Venus may reveal Earth's eventual future more clearly than any science fiction story. Today, Venus is a nightmare world. Surface temperature around 475 degrees Celsius. Pressure intense enough to crush submarines. Clouds filled with sulfuric acid. But scientists suspect Venus was not always like this. Long ago, it may have possessed oceans and milder temperatures. Then solar heating triggered a runaway greenhouse effect. Water vapor trapped more heat. More heat caused more evaporation. Eventually, the oceans disappeared entirely. The planet transformed into a furnace. Earth is farther from the sun than Venus, giving it more time, perhaps much more time. But physics does not negotiate forever. One day, Earth's oceans may begin evaporating irreversibly. The skies fill with thick water vapor clouds. Temperatures rise globally beyond survivable limits for complex life. Surface oceans shrink century after century until only scattered remnants remain near the poles. Then eventually, even those vanish. The oceans that once carried whales, storms, ships, coral reefs, and the first sparks of life disappear into the atmosphere. It is difficult for the human mind to truly picture an oceanless Earth. The sea feels eternal. People stand beside waves and instinctively believe they will continue forever. But forever does not exist in astronomy. Everything changes eventually. Tonight, though, Earth still feels alive. Streetlights glow through rainfall. Music plays from open windows somewhere. Clouds drift above sleeping towns. Billions of people continue ordinary lives without thinking about stellar evolution or planetary death. And perhaps that is beautiful in its own way. Human beings were never meant to carry the weight of cosmic time every moment of their lives. We are creatures built for shorter horizons. Warm meals, conversations, families. Tomorrow morning, the distant death of Earth does not make tonight meaningless. If anything, it makes tonight more precious. Because this planet is temporary. Its oceans are temporary. Its forests are temporary. Even the stars above are temporary. And in the middle of all that impermanence, conscious life briefly appeared and learned how to wonder. Outside, somewhere beyond city lights, the Earth is still turning quietly beneath the endless dark. For now, life continues. For now, the seas still move. For now, humanity still dreams beneath a living sky. The slow evaporation of the seas. For most of human history, people believed the oceans were infinite. Standing beside the sea can still create that illusion now. Waves continue arriving endlessly. Horizons stretch beyond sight. Storms rise and vanish across distances too large for the human eye to fully understand. The ocean feels immortal. But nothing on Earth is immortal. Not mountains, not forests, not civilizations, not even the seas themselves. 1 billion years in the future, Earth will still orbit the sun. Continents will still exist. Clouds may still drift through the atmosphere, but the planet will no longer resemble the blue world humanity once called home. Because by then, the oceans will be dying. At first, the process is almost invisible. The sun grows only slightly brighter every million years. The increase feels insignificant across short timescales. Human civilizations rise and collapse without noticing the difference. Entire species evolve beneath sunlight only fractionally warmer than before. But over immense stretches of time, small changes become catastrophic. The oceans begin evaporating faster. Warmer air holds more moisture, filling the atmosphere with increasing amounts of water vapor. Clouds grow denser in some regions, while others descend into permanent drought. Tropical zones become almost unbearable for complex life. The heat arrives slowly enough that ecosystems attempt to adapt. Some succeed temporarily. Others vanish forever. The tragedy of extinction is often quiet. Most species disappear unnoticed. No ceremony marks the final member of a species taking its last breath. No silence falls across the world. Life simply grows smaller. A bird no longer returns one spring. An insect stops appearing in summer fields. A coral reef fades from color into pale bone beneath warming seas. Then eventually, memory disappears too. Tonight, the oceans still breathe with life. Whales move through black water beneath moonlight. Tiny plankton drift invisibly near the surface, creating much of the oxygen filling Earth's atmosphere. Fish migrate along routes older than human civilization. Storms gather energy from warm tropical currents before moving across continents. The sea connects everything. Weather, climate, food, breath itself. Human beings often imagine Earth's atmosphere as the center of life, but the oceans are the planet's true circulatory system. They store heat, transport nutrients, regulate temperature, and stabilize climate across continents. Without the oceans, Earth becomes something else entirely. And far in the future, that transformation begins. Imagine standing on a coastline 800 million years from now. The sea is still there, but it feels different. The tides move against unfamiliar shorelines because the continents have shifted again. Mountain ranges humanity once knew are gone. New oceans have formed while old ones vanished. Entire tectonic plates disappeared deep beneath Earth's crust. The moon appears slightly farther away in the sky now. Earth's rotation has slowed. Days are longer. The sun shines brighter overhead, casting harsher light across the water. And though life still exists, the world already feels older, more fragile, more exhausted. Many familiar forms of life disappeared long ago. Mammals struggled beneath changing temperatures and unstable ecosystems. Forests retreated toward cooler regions over millions of years. Large, complex animals became increasingly rare as environmental stress intensified. Evolution continued fighting for survival. It always does. But evolution is not merciful. It creates no guarantees. Some organisms adapted to heat, others adapted to drought. Microbial life expanded into environments once hostile to biology. Strange new ecosystems emerged in isolated regions where conditions still allowed survival. Yet with each passing million years, habitable zones continued shrinking. The oceans kept evaporating. There comes a point in Earth's future when evaporation accelerates dramatically. This is where the true horror begins. Water vapor traps heat extremely effectively. As more ocean water enters the atmosphere, global temperatures climb faster. Higher temperatures create even more evaporation. More evaporation traps still more heat. A feedback loop. An unstoppable chain reaction. The skies grow thick with moisture. Storms become monstrous beyond anything modern humanity has experienced. Hurricanes larger than continents spin across overheated oceans, carrying unimaginable rainfall and winds. Lightning storms illuminate skies continuously over some regions. Elsewhere, rain vanishes completely. Vast deserts spread across former grasslands and forests. Entire rivers disappear. The world becomes divided between flood and drought. And through all of it, the sun continues brightening patiently overhead. There is no anger in stellar evolution. Only physics. Some future descendants of humanity may still exist during these distant ages. Perhaps civilization survives through technologies impossible for us to imagine now. Perhaps cities exist underground or beneath artificial climate domes, shielding fragile ecosystems from unbearable heat. Or perhaps humanity vanished long before this future arrived. No one can know. But if conscious beings still walk Earth then, they will live beneath a sky increasingly hostile to life. The seas themselves begin shrinking visibly over geological time. Shallow coastal regions dry first. Coral reefs die as temperatures rise beyond survivable limits. Marine food chains collapse piece by piece. Oxygen levels in the oceans decline. Dead zones spread through once living waters. The smell of the world changes too. Future Earth carries the scent of dust, minerals, salt, and overheated rain. Less green, less alive. Imagine standing where the Pacific Ocean once reached thousands of kilometers farther inland. The shoreline has retreated. Ancient seabeds bake beneath relentless sunlight. Skeletons of long-extinct marine creatures lie buried beneath layers of salt and sediment. The oceans no longer dominate Earth. They are retreating, slowly losing their war against the sky. Human beings often fear sudden disasters because sudden disasters feel dramatic and visible. Asteroid impacts, nuclear war, explosions, collapse. But the future death of Earth unfolds differently. The planet does not scream. It dries. And dryness changes everything. Forests disappear because rainfall patterns collapse. Soil erodes into lifeless dust. Temperatures swing violently between day and night across barren regions. Large animals struggle to survive migration routes that no longer contain water. Life retreats wherever it can, toward caves, toward poles, toward underground reservoirs, toward the final remaining coastlines. Eventually, Earth begins resembling worlds humanity once thought completely alien. Parts of the planet look more like Mars, or perhaps Venus before its final transformation. There is something deeply unsettling about realizing planets can cross invisible thresholds, beyond which recovery becomes impossible. Earth's future climate system contains tipping points. Once passed, no natural process easily reverses them. Oceans evaporate beyond replenishment. Carbon cycles destabilize permanently. Ecosystems collapse faster than evolution can compensate. The world humanity inherited existed during a rare window of planetary balance, a calm period between catastrophes. And even that calm was temporary. Tonight, rain still falls over oceans carrying trillions of living creatures. Ice still exists near the poles. Rivers still carve paths through continents. Children still play beside beaches while waves erase footprints from sand. But all of it exists on borrowed time. Even now, sunlight reaching Earth contains the seeds of the ocean's destruction. Every sunrise moves the future forward. Yet strangely, that does not make Earth feel hopeless. It makes it precious, because temporary things often become the most beautiful. Cherry blossoms bloom briefly. Snow melts. Music ends. Human lives pass quickly. And someday, even oceans vanish. Still, the sea continues breathing tonight. Whales still rise through moonlit water. Fishing boats still drift beneath stars. Somewhere, someone is falling asleep to the sound of waves reaching shore. The earth remains alive. For now, the day the sky turned against life. Long before the oceans completely disappear, the sky itself begins changing. At first, future generations barely notice. Sunrises appear slightly brighter. Summer heat lingers longer into evening. Storms grow larger. The atmosphere carries more moisture, making the air feel heavier across much of the planet. Human beings adapt the way they always have. Buildings change shape. Cities expand underground. Agriculture moves toward cooler regions. Technology fights to preserve normal life. But the atmosphere is transforming into something increasingly dangerous. And eventually, the sky itself becomes an enemy. Today, Earth's atmosphere protects life in ways most people never think about. Oxygen allows animals to breathe. Ozone absorbs deadly ultraviolet radiation. Atmospheric pressure keeps liquid water stable on the surface. The air around you is not empty. It is a fragile survival system created over billions of years by geology, oceans, sunlight, and life itself. Without plants and microorganisms constantly renewing oxygen, Earth's atmosphere would look very different. Life shaped the sky. And someday, as life declines, the sky will change again. Imagine standing outside 1 billion years from now, beneath a future noon sun. The brightness hurts your eyes. The heat feels oppressive even in regions once considered temperate. Clouds tower higher into the atmosphere than modern storms. Humidity hangs over coastlines like invisible weight. The world still contains beauty, but it feels dangerous now, like a feverish dream of Earth. As oceans evaporate faster, enormous quantities of water vapor rise into the upper atmosphere. There, sunlight begins breaking water molecules apart through ultraviolet radiation. Hydrogen escapes slowly into space. Oxygen remains behind temporarily. Over immense spans of time, Earth literally loses water to the cosmos. One molecule at a time. The oceans are not merely evaporating. They are leaking away into the universe itself. This process may sound impossibly slow, but over hundreds of millions of years it becomes catastrophic. The planet cannot replace water lost to space. Eventually, total ocean volume begins falling permanently. Future Earth grows drier. The atmosphere grows stranger. At the same time, declining plant life changes atmospheric chemistry. Forests vanish across vast regions due to heat stress and collapsing rainfall patterns. Photosynthesis weakens globally. Oxygen levels slowly begin dropping. Not suddenly enough to suffocate life overnight, but enough to reshape biology. Large animals struggle first. Creatures requiring high oxygen environments disappear. Insects may grow smaller. Ecosystems simplify dramatically. Microbial organisms dominate more environments once filled by complex life. The world becomes biologically quieter. Less movement, less sound, less diversity. Imagine a future shoreline beneath gray-white skis. The sea still exists, but the waterline lies kilometers farther away than ancient maps once showed. Salt plains stretch across former coastal regions. Wind lifts dust into the air beneath brutal sunlight. Only scattered forms of life survive here now. Small, resilient organisms. Heat-adapted plants. Creatures active mostly during cooler nights. The age of abundant life is ending. And above all of it hangs a changing sky. Storm systems become almost unimaginable in size because warmer atmospheres contain vastly more energy. Lightning storms rage for days across overheated oceans. Some clouds rise so high they reach parts of the atmosphere modern aircraft never enter. Rain falls in catastrophic bursts, then disappears for years. Weather becomes unstable beyond anything human civilization evolved to handle. And somewhere during this distant era, future intelligent beings, if any still exist, finally understand something terrifying. Earth is no longer healing itself. For billions of years, the planet maintained balance through interconnected systems. Oceans absorbed heat, plants stabilized gases, ice reflected sunlight, geological cycles regulated carbon. But now those systems are failing faster than they recover. The Earth is becoming unstable, and instability spreads everywhere. The poles warm dramatically, remaining glaciers disappear entirely, mountain snowpacks vanish, rivers fed by ancient ice cease to exist, seasonal patterns collapse. The word season itself may lose meaning across much of the world. Some regions remain trapped beneath permanent storms, while others experience endless drought. There are places on future Earth where rain never falls anymore. Only dust, only heat, only wind moving across empty landscapes where forests once stood. And still the sun rises every morning. That may be the cruelest part. The future end of life on Earth arrives beneath beautiful sunlight. No dark apocalypse clouds. No cosmic monster devouring the planet. Just an aging star growing steadily brighter while the world beneath it slowly dies. Imagine future archaeologists, human or otherwise, exploring the ruins of ancient coastal cities buried beneath layers of salt and sediment. Towers broken by time rise from abandoned shorelines. Roads vanish into dried seabeds. Fossils of countless extinct species lie trapped beneath cracked earth. The remains of an ocean world. A memory of blue skies and rain. Earth's atmosphere eventually enters a stage scientists sometimes compare to conditions on early Venus. Water vapor dominates the greenhouse effect. Surface temperatures rise globally. The remaining oceans shrink toward isolated basins near cooler latitudes. The air becomes dangerous for complex organisms. Wet bulb temperatures, combinations of heat and humidity lethal to mammals, spread across much of the planet. Even shade offers little protection because sweat can no longer cool bodies effectively. The atmosphere itself prevents survival. It is difficult to imagine Earth becoming hostile to humans because humanity evolved so perfectly for this world. Our lungs match its oxygen. Our skin tolerates its sunlight. Our bodies depend on liquid water existing within narrow temperature ranges. We are products of Earth's current conditions. Change the planet enough, and suddenly humanity no longer fits here. One day, if our species survives long enough, future humans may look at old photographs of oceans, forests, snowfall, and ordinary rainstorms with the same sadness modern people feel viewing extinct animals. Images from a lost world, a cooler world, a living world. Tonight, though, the atmosphere still protects us. The sky still carries breathable air across continents. Rain still falls on forests. Winds still carry the smell of oceans through coastal towns. Most people never think about how miraculous that truly is. The atmosphere feels permanent because it surrounds us constantly. But planetary atmospheres can vanish. They can transform. They can become poison. Earth has worn many skis before humanity existed. And someday, it will wear another after humanity is gone. Outside tonight, clouds are drifting quietly across the darkness. Somewhere, thunder is rolling across distant hills. Somewhere else, stars shine clearly through cold night air above sleeping cities. The sky still belongs to life. For now, when green began to disappear, there was a time when Earth looked impossibly alive. Forests stretched across continents like green oceans visible from space. Rain fell in warm jungles where insects hummed beneath leaves larger than human bodies. Moss covered ancient stones. Rivers carried mountain snow through valleys crowded with life. The planet breathed. Every forest on Earth was part of that breathing. Trees inhaled carbon dioxide and exhaled oxygen into the atmosphere. Roots held soil in place against storms and floods. Leaves released water vapor into the air, helping create clouds and rainfall thousands of kilometers away. Forests were never just collections of trees. They were living machines helping stabilize the world. And one day, they began to fail. Not suddenly, not all at once. At first, the changes looked ordinary. Longer droughts, hotter summers, wildfires growing larger every decade. Some forests adapted for a while. Certain species migrated northward or climbed higher into mountains seeking cooler temperatures. Evolution continued working desperately behind the scenes, generation after generation, trying to keep pace with a warming planet. But evolution has limits, and the sun kept growing brighter. Hundreds of millions of years in the future, Earth's climate crosses another invisible threshold. Rainfall patterns collapse across enormous regions. Temperatures remain high even through the night. Soil moisture disappears faster than ecosystems can recover. The forests begin thinning, then retreating, then dying. Imagine standing at the edge of one of the final great forests on Earth. The air is still humid here. Birds still move through branches overhead. Rain still falls often enough to support dense vegetation. But beyond the horizon lies something terrifying: endless dry land where forests once stood. Future Earth becomes a planet of shrinking green islands, surrounded by expanding deserts. The transition feels slow during individual lifetimes. People living through the early stages still remember greener decades from childhood. They remember rivers that once ran deeper, summers that once felt cooler, insects that no longer appeared at night around lights. Memory becomes painful, because memory reveals loss. Entire species disappear during this era. Some vanish because temperatures exceed survivable limits. Others die because plants they depended on no longer exist. Predator-prey relationships collapse. Pollination networks fail. Ecosystems unravel like old fabric slowly coming apart. The silence spreads gradually. First fewer birds, then fewer insects. Then forests themselves become quieter. There is something deeply unsettling about a silent forest. Modern humans rarely experience true natural silence because healthy ecosystems are always filled with sound. Insects buzzing, leaves moving, distant animal calls, water flowing through hidden streams. A dying ecosystem sounds empty. Future travelers crossing Earth's remaining forests notice that emptiness immediately. The air feels still, heavy. The songs are gone. By now, Earth's atmosphere contains less oxygen than it once did. Not enough to instantly kill large animals, but enough to strain them constantly. Fires behave differently too. Some regions burn less because vegetation is sparse. Others experience unstoppable infernos fed by extreme heat and drought. Wildfire seasons merge into permanent fire years. Smoke circles the planet. Ash falls over oceans, already shrinking beneath relentless sunlight. And still the sun rises every morning, brighter than it once was. The future death of forests changes weather itself. Today, rainforests create part of their own rainfall by releasing water vapor into the atmosphere. Remove enough trees, and the climate destabilizes further. Dry conditions create fewer forests. Fewer forests create even drier conditions. Another feedback loop. Another irreversible shift. Earth begins losing one of its greatest defenses against planetary overheating. The forests had protected the world for millions of years. Now they are disappearing. Imagine a future child hearing stories about ancient forests, the way modern people hear myths about lost kingdoms. Trees taller than buildings. Birds in impossible colors. Wet air carrying the smell of rain and soil. Rivers hidden beneath endless leaves. To them, it sounds unreal, because most of the world they know is dry now. Hot, open to a brutal white sky. There are still pockets of life, of course. Earth fights to remain alive for as long as physics allows. Near polar regions and high elevations, some resilient ecosystems survive longer. Strange new forms of vegetation evolve to tolerate heat and limited water. But the age of lush abundance is ending. Complex life thrives best during periods of environmental stability. Future Earth no longer offers stability. Even the continents themselves feel wounded now. Lakes vanish into cracked basins. Dust storms cross former grasslands. Ancient river systems disappear entirely from maps. Wind carries salt from dried oceans across barren plains where cities once stood. Civilizations, if they still exist, become concentrated near the last reliable water sources. Water becomes more valuable than gold ever was. Wars may be fought over underground reservoirs. Migration becomes constant. Entire populations move towards surviving habitable zones, while the equatorial regions grow increasingly lethal. And through all of it, plants continue dying. The great forests that once covered Earth begin surviving only in fragments. There is something heartbreakingly human about forests. People walk among trees and instinctively feel calmer. Children climb branches. Lovers carve initials into bark. Families gather around campfires beneath leaves moving softly in wind. Forests shaped human imagination long before cities existed. Fairy tales lived there. Religions began there. Entire cultures were built around them. One day, all of that becomes memory. Because eventually, Earth reaches a point where even hardy plant life struggles beneath the changing atmosphere and heat. Photosynthesis itself becomes less effective. The chemistry of life no longer works efficiently under the planet's new conditions. And once forests begin disappearing globally, oxygen levels continue falling faster. The atmosphere grows thinner for complex organisms. The Earth is slowly returning to a world dominated by simpler life. Microbes, algae, heat-resistant organism thriving where forests and animals once flourished. Life persists, but it becomes smaller, simpler, less visible. Imagine standing on a hill one evening beneath the final age of forests. The horizon glows red from distant fires burning across dry land. Warm wind carries ash through thinning trees. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls from a storm too far away to bring rain here. The forest still lives around you, but it knows something is wrong. Leaves are sparse. Streams run shallow. Animal trails lie abandoned. And overhead, the stars appear through gaps in the canopy, growing larger every year. Earth is not dying violently. It is dying gradually enough for grief. Tonight, though, forests still exist. Rain still taps softly against leaves somewhere in the darkness. Wind still moves through pine trees on cold mountainsides. Tropical jungles still hum with insects beneath moonlit skies. Somewhere, a person is falling asleep in a cabin deep within the woods, while branches sway outside their window. The earth still breathes. The collapse of the animal kingdom. The animals disappear slowly enough that many people never notice the full tragedy. A species goes extinct somewhere far away. Another survives only in captivity. Another loses most of its habitat and retreats into isolated regions. Human civilization continues moving forward. Cities remain loud. Traffic still fills roads. Screens still glow late into the night. Life feels normal. Until one day, someone realizes the silence outside has changed. No birds in the morning. No insects against porch lights. No distant howling beyond the edge of town. Only wind. The collapse of animal life on Earth does not begin in the distant future. In some ways, it already started long ago. But hundreds of millions of years from now, the process accelerates beyond recovery. Because animals depend on stability, and future Earth becomes increasingly unstable. Complex life requires delicate balances to survive. Temperature ranges, oxygen levels, reliable food chains, water availability, seasonal rhythms refined over millions of years through evolution. When those systems collapse, biology collapses with them. Imagine Earth during the age of shrinking forests and evaporating seas. The remaining ecosystems are fragmented and fragile now. Herds migrate across enormous distances searching for water. Predators follow prey through landscapes growing hotter every generation. Some species evolve rapidly in desperate attempts to survive. Most fail. Large animals disappear first in many regions. Big bodies require more food, more water, more oxygen. As ecosystems weaken, maintaining large complex organisms becomes increasingly difficult. The giants vanish one by one. No more massive migrations. No more thunder of hooves across plains. No more great predators moving through forests at night. The earth grows emptier. Future oceans suffer even worse devastation. Marine ecosystems once supported unimaginable diversity. Coral reefs, whales, fish, crustaceans, microscopic plankton responsible for much of Earth's oxygen production. But warming oceans lose oxygen over time. Acidification damages shells and reefs. Food chains unravel from the bottom upward. And as the seas continue shrinking, entire marine habitats vanish completely. Imagine future coastlines littered with the fossilized remains of creatures from richer ages. Vast stretches of former seabed bake beneath scorching sunlight, while salt storms drift inland on hot winds. The oceans still contain life, but far less than before. Whales disappear eventually. Large fish become rare. Coral reefs vanish almost entirely. The great age of ocean life ends not with a dramatic catastrophe, but with gradual biological exhaustion. The sea simply stops supporting complexity. And above the waterline, the seas grow quieter too. Birds were once among Earth's greatest survivors. Descendants of dinosaurs, they endured asteroid impacts, ice ages, volcanic winters, and continental shifts. But even birds struggle against the future Earth. Rising temperatures disrupt migration. Forests disappear. Insects decline. Nesting regions become uninhabitable. Species shrink in number until eventually the sky itself feels empty. One of the saddest moments in planetary decline may come when future generations realize they no longer hear birdsong at dawn. Not because of temporary seasonal changes, because the birds are gone. The emotional weight of extinction is difficult to measure scientifically. Every extinct species represents millions of years of evolutionary history erased forever. Unique behaviors, unique appearances, unique ways of experiencing the world. Gone permanently. And nature does not replace them quickly. Earth required billions of years to create the abundance humanity inherited. Future decline happens much faster. Imagine a future museum built by descendants of humanity long after most modern animals disappeared. Children walk through enormous halls containing reconstructed skeletons and digital simulations. Elephants, wolves, tigers, whales, creatures so extraordinary they seem fictional to beings born into a quieter world. Perhaps the children stare longest at recordings of birds singing in ancient forests, because by then, such sounds no longer exist outside archives. The future atmosphere makes survival increasingly difficult for complex organisms. Oxygen declines gradually over millions of years. Heat stress intensifies globally. Wet bulb temperatures spread across vast regions, making sustained activity impossible for many animals. Some creatures adapt by becoming nocturnal. Others shrink in size. Many retreat underground. The Earth starts resembling earlier prehistoric eras when microbial life dominated hostile environments, while large complex ecosystems remained limited. Life survives, but barely. And eventually, even humanity may face biological limits impossible to overcome. Modern humans often imagine technology solving every problem: climate control, artificial habitats, genetic engineering, underground cities. Perhaps future civilizations achieve astonishing things. But maintaining advanced civilization requires stable energy, resources, and infrastructure. Planetary collapse places pressure on every system simultaneously. Food becomes harder to grow, water harder to secure, outdoor environments harder to survive. Civilization may endure for long periods through adaptation. But adaptation is not the same as victory, because Earth itself is becoming incompatible with the biology that evolved here. The cruel irony is that animals survived countless previous catastrophes precisely because Earth eventually recovered afterward. After asteroid impacts, ecosystems returned. After ice ages, forests expanded again. After volcanic winters, sunlight came back. But the future transformation driven by the aging sun cannot truly reverse. It only worsens. The planet is aging alongside its star, and aging worlds lose their abundance slowly. Tonight, though, life still surrounds the Earth. Somewhere in the ocean, whales are moving through darkness older than humanity itself. Somewhere in Africa, lions rest beneath warm night air. Somewhere in northern forests, Wolves move silently between trees while snow falls softly around them. Birds still cross the sky. Insects still hum beneath streetlights. Dogs still sleep beside human beds. The animal kingdom still lives. For now, the last cities beneath the burning sky. Long after forests began disappearing and the ocean started retreating, humanity was still alive. That was the remarkable thing. Civilizations collapsed and rose again countless times across the long decline of Earth, but people endured. Generations adapted to harsher climates the same way ancient humans once adapted to ice ages, plagues, and famine. Human beings are survivors, even at the edge of planetary death. At first, the great cities simply changed shape. Skyscrapers became sealed against heat. Roads were covered to protect travelers from lethal sunlight during parts of the day. Massive cooling systems hummed beneath urban districts powered by reactors, solar networks, geothermal plants, and technologies far beyond anything humanity possessed during earlier centuries. Life continued indoors. Artificial rain nourished vertical farms inside climate-controlled towers. Underground reservoirs recycled every drop of water. Vast mirrors floated in orbit attempting to reduce solar radiation reaching the surface. Humanity fought desperately against physics itself. And for a while it worked. Future cities glowed beneath enormous domes protecting millions from the hostile atmosphere outside. Inside those barriers, trees still grew. Artificial rivers flowed through carefully maintained parks. Children still laughed beside fountains, while old recordings of extinct birds echoed softly through public gardens. People tried to preserve memories of Earth as it once was. The green Earth, the ocean Earth, the living Earth. But outside the domes, the real planet continued changing. The heat never stopped increasing. Imagine standing outside one of the final surface cities on Earth. The sky is pale and blinding beneath an enlarged sun. Dust moves endlessly across cracked ground where grass no longer grows. Far away, abandoned ruins rise from deserts swallowing the remains of older civilizations. The air feels dangerous. Not instantly lethal everywhere, but exhausting. Even advanced protective suits struggle against daytime temperatures in many regions. Human skin burns quickly beneath ultraviolet radiation, intensified by atmospheric changes. And still, people survive here, because survival becomes humanity's final obsession. Entire cultures evolve around conservation. Water is measured with absolute precision. Food is synthesized in laboratories and underground farms. Waste is recycled endlessly. Energy becomes the foundation of existence itself. Future humans may spend most of their lives indoors beneath artificial skis. Not because they forgot nature, because nature became hostile. There is something tragic about that transformation. For most of human history, the natural world shaped civilization. People built cultures around rivers, seasons, rainfall, forests, and oceans. Entire religions emerged from humanity's relationship with the earth. Now the earth is something people hide from. Some future generations may barely remember what ordinary weather once felt like. A cool breeze, natural rain, the smell of forests after storms, open windows at night. These become luxuries preserved in simulations and historical archives. The real sky outside grows harsher every century. And even humanity's greatest technologies cannot stop the deeper changes happening beneath the surface. Earth's tectonic activity begins slowing over immense timescales as the planet gradually loses internal heat. Volcanoes become less frequent. Mountain building slows. The geological engine that helped recycle carbon and stabilize climate weakens. The world grows older. Planetary aging affects everything. Meanwhile, the moon continues drifting farther away from Earth each year. The effect is tiny across human lifetimes, but over billions of years, it changes the rhythm of the planet itself. Earth's rotation slows, days lengthen. Future sunsets linger longer than those of ancient Earth. Time itself feels stretched across the dying world. Imagine future historians studying videos from humanity's earlier eras. Crowded beaches, children running through rain, dense forests filled with animal sounds, snowfall covering quiet streets during winter nights. The past appears impossibly rich with life. People watching those archives may feel grief for a world they never knew. And perhaps guilt too, because humanity likely contributed to Earth's earlier instability long before the sun's natural evolution became the dominant threat. Industrial emissions, habitat destruction, pollution, and resource depletion accelerated ecological collapse during critical periods of planetary balance. Even if the Earth was always destined to die eventually, humanity may have shortened the age of abundance. Still, blame becomes meaningless this far into the future. Civilization's final generations care less about who caused the decline and more about surviving one more century, one more decade, one more year. The remaining oceans continue shrinking now. Coastlines retreat farther each generation. Many equatorial regions become entirely uninhabitable during daylight hours. The atmosphere carries enormous amounts of moisture and heat, creating storms of terrifying violence. Lightning storms illuminate continents for days. Elsewhere, droughts last centuries. Earth's climate no longer behaves predictably enough for traditional agriculture. Nearly all food production occurs inside engineered environments protected from the outside world. Humanity increasingly separates itself from nature because nature is collapsing. But there is a cost to that separation. People born inside sealed cities begin experiencing psychological distress from living disconnected from open ecosystems. Artificial parks help, but something feels missing. The sky, the wind, the unpredictability of real weather. Human beings evolved in nature, and now nature is dying around them. Some future cultures may become deeply nostalgic for Earth's lost wilderness. Ancient forests, oceans, and extinct animals gain almost sacred status in art and storytelling. Children learn about whales and rainstorms the way modern people learn about dragons and myths. Beautiful things from another age. Outside the cities, abandoned regions spread endlessly. Entire continents become difficult to inhabit permanently. Sandstorms move through the skeletons of former megacities. Rusted infrastructure disappears beneath dunes and salt plains. Ancient satellites fall from unstable orbits into skies no longer crowded with aircraft. Civilization shrinks inward. Smaller populations, smaller habitable zones, smaller dreams. Humanity once dreamed of conquering the stars. Now survival on Earth itself feels uncertain. And yet, even during decline, people continue acting human. They still fall in love, still tell jokes, still gather around meals, still hold each other during fear. That may be the most extraordinary part of our species. Even at the edge of extinction, humanity remains emotionally human. Imagine two people standing beneath an artificial night sky inside one of the final cities. Above them, projected stars shimmer across a climate-controlled dome because the real sky outside is too bright and hostile to enjoy safely. They hold hands while listening to archived recordings of ocean waves from a world long gone. Neither of them has ever seen a real ocean, but they mourn it anyway. Tonight, however, the real ocean still exists. Cities still open their windows to cool night air in many places. Rain still falls naturally across forests and rooftops. Children still splash through puddles after storms beneath living skis. Human civilization still belongs to Earth. For now, the final migration of humanity. There comes a moment in every collapsing civilization when people stop asking how to save the world and begin asking where they can still survive. For future humanity, that realization arrives slowly. Then all at once, the equatorial regions fail first. For millions of years, the tropics were among the richest ecosystems on Earth: dense rainforests, vibrant oceans, endless biodiversity beneath warm sunlight. But on the future Earth, those same regions become nearly impossible for humans to inhabit. The heat is simply too extreme. Even advanced cooling technologies struggle against outdoor conditions, where wet bulb temperatures remain deadly for extended periods. Sweat no longer cools the body effectively. Exposure during daytime hours can kill within hours or less. Entire cities are abandoned. At first, people try to adapt through engineering. Giant reflective structures shield urban districts. Underground transportation replaces surface travel. Work schedules shift entirely into nighttime hours. But eventually, retreat becomes unavoidable. Humanity begins moving toward the poles. North, south, toward the last region, where temperatures remain survivable for complex life. This migration may become the largest movement of intelligent beings in Earth's history. Not millions, not billions, potentially entire civilization, relocating across continents over generations. Imagine endless caravans crossing dry plains beneath dim orange dawns. Freight convoys carrying water purification systems, food synthesizers, medical equipment, archives of human knowledge. People leave behind ancestral homes, knowing they will never return. Ancient coastal cities stand empty beneath rising heat, while inland refugee settlements expand near remaining freshwater reserves. The maps of Earth change again, not because continents moved this time, because humanity did. And the farther south or north future populations travel, the stranger the world becomes. Former polar regions transform into the final centers of civilization. Areas once buried beneath ice become crowded with cities, farms, and infrastructure designed to support the remnants of humanity. Meanwhile, the rest of Earth grows increasingly barren. The contrast becomes haunting. Near the poles, artificial forests grow beneath protected climate zones. Carefully controlled ecosystems preserve fragments of the old Earth. Scientists guard frozen DNA archives containing extinct species. Museums display preserved relics from oceans, jungles, and animals that no longer exist. Outside these regions lies a wounded planet. Dust storms, salt deserts, overheated coastlines. The remains of drowned and abandoned cities slowly collapsing into silence. The migration changes humanity culturally as much as biologically. Future generations born during the Great Retreat may no longer think of Earth as a naturally habitable world. Survival depends entirely on infrastructure now. Climate systems, water recycling, artificial agriculture, radiation shielding. Civilization becomes less connected to the planet itself and more dependent on machines. There is danger in that dependence, because machines fail. And maintaining global technological systems on a dying planet grows harder every century. Resources become scarcer. Population declines. Supply chains shrink. Knowledge fragments. Some isolated settlements vanish entirely after infrastructure collapses. Others endure through extreme discipline and adaptation. Humanity separates into cultures shaped by survival conditions, underground societies, polar arcologies, oceanic remnants near the last stable waters. Perhaps even genetic modification becomes necessary. Future humans may alter themselves to tolerate heat, lower oxygen levels, or increased radiation. Evolution once shaped humanity naturally over millions of years. Now survival pressures accelerate change artificially. The species itself begins transforming alongside the planet. And above it all hangs the terrible realization that Earth's decline cannot truly be reversed. This is not merely climate change anymore. It is stellar evolution. The sun itself is aging. No political system, invention, or revolution can stop a star from becoming brighter over time. Humanity is fighting the physics of the universe, and the universe always wins eventually. Still, people refuse to surrender easily. Perhaps massive space habitats are built during these distant ages, rotating colonies orbiting Earth or drifting farther into the solar system. Generational ships carrying fragments of civilization toward colder moons or distant stars. If humanity survives long enough technologically, migration may eventually leave Earth entirely. Not as conquerors, as refugees. That idea carries enormous sadness. Earth is not merely humanity's birthplace. It shaped every aspect of human existence. Language, biology, culture, memory, all evolved beneath Earth's gravity, atmosphere, and skies. Leaving Earth would feel less like exploration and more like exile. Imagine the final generation, born naturally beneath open Earth skis. Children running beneath real clouds instead of artificial projections, feeling rain directly on skin without protective suits, watching wild animals move freely across landscapes not enclosed beneath domes. They may not realize they belong to the final chapter of something ancient, because endings rarely announce themselves clearly while they are happening. One day, perhaps centuries later, elderly survivors tell stories to children born in orbital habitats or underground cities. Stories about oceans, about forests, about snowfall, about standing beside waves under moonlight. The children listen with wonder because such things sound impossible now. And somewhere beyond those fragile surviving civilizations, the Earth continues changing. The seas shrink farther. The atmosphere thickens with heat. The sun brightens patiently overhead. The window for complex life narrows year by year. Tonight, though, humanity still walks freely beneath open skies. Air still feels cool in many places after sunset. Birds still cross continents during migration seasons. Families still gather beside beaches, lakes, forests, and rivers without needing protective domes or underground shelters. The Great Migration has not begun. The Earth is still home, the last shoreline on Earth. At some point in the far future, there will be a final shoreline on Earth. One last place where liquid ocean touches open land beneath the sky. No human being alive today will ever see it. No city from the modern world will survive long enough to stand beside it. But someday, somewhere on the dying planet, waves will reach a coast for the final time. And after that, Earth will never be an ocean world again. The process leading there takes millions of years. Long enough for civilizations to rise and vanish repeatedly. Long enough for languages, religions, nations, and perhaps even humanity itself to transform beyond recognition. But the seas continue shrinking through all of it. Relentlessly, patiently. As the sun grows brighter, evaporation intensifies across the planet. Water vapor floods the atmosphere where ultraviolet radiation tears molecules apart. Hydrogen escapes into space forever. Earth is bleeding its oceans into the cosmos, one atom at a time. The remaining seas retreat toward cooler regions of the planet. Former continental shelves become enormous salt plains visible from orbit. Deep trenches once hidden beneath kilometers of water lie exposed beneath harsh sunlight. The world changes color. Less blue, more brown, more white. Cloud systems behave differently now because there is less ocean to feed them. Rainfall grows increasingly rare across most of Earth. The hydrological cycle, one of the ancient systems that sustained life for billions of years, begins failing. And with it, the last great ecosystems collapse. Imagine standing on the shore of one of Earth's final oceans. The coastline stretches beneath a pale, overheated sky. The sea itself looks darker now, almost metallic beneath the fierce sunlight. Salt crusts cover rocks where tides once rose higher centuries earlier. The air smells strange. Dry minerals, warm salt, dust carried from dead continents. There are still living things here. Microbial mats thrive along parts of the coast. Some resilient algae survive in shallow waters. Strange heat-adapted organisms drift through the remaining seas. But the abundance is gone. No whales breach the surface anymore. No seabirds circle overhead. No coral reefs glow beneath the waves. The oceans survived billions of years only to end in silence. Perhaps future humans still visit these shores wearing protective suits against the heat. They may come not for resources, but for mourning. Because by then, the sea is sacred. The last reminder of the old Earth. Imagine a parent bringing a child to the final coastline. The child has spent their entire life inside climate-controlled habitats beneath artificial skis. They know oceans mostly through recordings and ancient history lessons. Then they stand before the real thing. A shrinking sea beneath the dying sun. The child hears waves for the first time. And perhaps the sound feels unbearably lonely. There is something haunting about the idea that Earth's oceans outlived almost everything else. They survived asteroid impacts, supervolcano, tectonic upheaval, ice ages, and mass extinctions. Oceans existed before dinosaurs, before trees, before complex life itself. The first life on Earth likely emerged within ancient seas. And now those same seas are disappearing forever. Future coastlines become graveyards of former worlds. The remains of ships lie stranded on dry seabeds thousands of kilometers from surviving water. Ancient harbors stand abandoned beneath layers of salt and wind-blown dust. Entire civilizations once depended on oceans. Trade, food, travel, climate, stories. Human imagination itself was shaped by the sea. Sailors once crossed enormous waters guided only by stars. Children built sandcastles beside waves. Lovers walked along beaches at sunset. Families scattered ashes into tides carrying memory beyond the horizon. All of that belonged to a temporary Earth. And temporary things eventually end. By now, future humanity, if still alive, exists almost entirely within engineered environments. Outdoor survival becomes impossible across most regions without technological protection. Water is recycled endlessly because natural freshwater systems no longer function reliably. Rain itself becomes rare enough to feel miraculous. Entire generations may live and die without experiencing natural rainfall on bare skin. The psychological effect is profound. Humans evolved beside rivers and oceans. The sound of moving water shaped our nervous systems. Many people instinctively relax beside waves because life itself emerged from water long before humans existed. Now the world is drying around them. The remaining seas shrink year after year until coastlines retreat visibly within single lifetimes. And eventually, scientists realize something terrifying. The process cannot be stopped anymore. Not slowed, not reversed. The oceans are entering their final age. Some future civilizations may attempt desperate planetary engineering projects, vast reflective shields in orbit, artificial atmospheric manipulation. massive water preservation systems. But preserving oceans requires controlling a star. And no civilization survives forever against astrophysics. Earth's atmosphere grows thicker with water vapor and heat, even as total ocean volume declines. The seas become hazy beneath constant evaporation. Temperatures remain dangerously high day and night across much of the world. The planet itself feels feverish, and the remaining water bodies begin fragmenting into isolated inland seas. Then lakes, then scattered reservoirs trapped in deep geological depressions. Eventually, Earth no longer looks blue from space. That transformation alone feels heartbreaking. For billions of years, astronauts and distant observers would have recognized Earth instantly by its oceans. Blue defined the planet. Blue clouds, blue seas, blue life. Then slowly the color fades. Imagine the final photograph of Earth as a true ocean world. Perhaps taken by an ancient satellite or distant space colony before the seas vanish almost entirely. The image shows only scattered patches of dark water remaining near the poles beneath swirling clouds. The rest is desert, a dying world still trying to remember what it once was. Tonight, though, the oceans remain immense. Storms still move across the Pacific. Moonlight still reflects off Atlantic waves. Rain still falls into rivers flowing toward living seas filled with creatures older than human civilization. People still stand beside coastlines believing the water will always be there. And for their brief lives, it will. The sea still breathes beneath the stars. The silence after the birds. Long before the oceans completely disappear, the seas grow empty. Not suddenly, not dramatically. The silence arrives gradually enough that many generations fail to notice what is happening. At first, migration seasons become smaller. Fewer birds return each year. Certain species vanish from familiar regions. People blame habitat loss, climate instability, pollution, collapsing food chains. All of them are correct. But beneath every immediate cause lies a deeper truth. Earth itself is becoming harder for complex life to survive. Birds once filled the planet with movement and sound. They crossed continents guided by magnetic fields and ancient instincts older than humanity. Their songs marked mornings. Their migrations connected seasons across hemispheres. The world felt alive because the seas moved. Now the seas are emptying. Imagine waking on future Earth beneath the dawn without birdsong. No distant calls. No wings overhead. Only wind moving through dry structures and thinning vegetation. Human beings evolved surrounded by natural soundscapes. For hundreds of thousands of years, birds signaled changing weather, approaching danger, the arrival of morning itself. Silence feels unnatural because, for most of history, silence in nature usually meant something was wrong. Future Earth becomes filled with that wrongness. The collapse of bird populations reflects a much larger biological tragedy unfolding across the planet. Insects disappear first in many regions due to heat, drought, atmospheric instability, and ecosystem collapse. Without insects, countless birds lose their food sources. Without forests, they lose nesting grounds. Without stable climates, migration patterns fail. And one by one, species vanish. Some future humans may dedicate enormous efforts toward preserving the remaining animals inside controlled sanctuaries. Climate-regulated biospheres house the final descendants of species that once roamed freely across Earth. Tiny populations survive behind glass and machinery. The last wolves, the last elephants, the last seabirds, not wild anymore. Curated memories of a richer planet. Children visit these sanctuaries the way ancient humans once